Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I know that we're running out of time for me to actually be posting this video, but I think I mentioned this before, but I've been sick for the last few days, and so I just haven't had time to finish editing this video because I've just been feeling so horrible. So even though we only have a couple days left before 5.2 comes out, I am doing a discussion video about the trailer that we saw. Just going to go over what we saw and everything about it. And I'm just going to be pointing out just some things that I've noticed, things that we saw in the trailer, and kind of try to pinpoint like the important stuff. Just kind of try to put it all together and predict about what we're going to be getting for 5.2. These are just my personal opinion, just my ideas of what we're going to be getting, and just basically what my mind came up with when I saw these images, so feel free to take what you can from it. So, we're going to be starting off at the beginning, and it starts off with a loud siren going off, and we see these Imperials running around this containment bay where we get a glimpse of our new trial monster, the ruby weapon. So, as of right now, from what we've been told, this is a weapon that was actually built by the Garleans. This wasn't built by Alec, and so they didn't find this weapon and just restored it and are planning to use it against us. Apparently they actually went to all the trouble to actually build this from scratch. And it really shouldn't be too surprising considering that we did have them experimenting with weapons at the end of 5.1. It is strongly hinted that this was inspired by Alec, however, so we'll just have to wait and see just what this baby's capable of. But then again, this is the ruby weapon, one of the several super bosses we get from Final Fantasy XIV. So it's a nice tie-in, especially with the remake of 7 coming out. And that seems to be the case when we have the image of what looks like a woman sitting in a control chair and seems to be engaging it for the weapon to be taken off. Anyway, she seems ready to engage the Alliance in an attempt to push back the forces of the Gimlet Dark, and we actually see a trace of what the battle is going to look like and maybe even just a taste of what the music's going to be. This thing looks freaking awesome, just running over people, growing out his nails, and just blowing them up when they go into the ground. So that's going to be fun and most likely very painful. Next thing, we have these two figures here who appear to be part of the resistance from the lands within Ishbard, with whom we're probably going to be meeting up with and joining forces to kind of inspire the troops that are in Ishbard and are trying to reclaim their homelands. But over the next scene, we hear these words from Gaius. "It was my hands that kindled these flames, and I cannot allow them to spread any further." And this is further pushed when we see him standing with Reborn and Alamigo and discussing probably the whole idea with the ruby weapon and the other weapons waiting for us. And it appears that he's here kind of to warn us on what's going on, if not to recruit our aid. I am a little impressed that Reborn is standing there so calmly and he's not trying to attack Gaius yet for all that he's done. I think he's just so impressed that Gaius came there all on his own and is probably explaining the whole idea of these weapons. In the next scene, we see the Warrior of Darkness there with the others as we move through these old ruins, most likely through the new dungeon of Emerald. And I noticed just how similar it looks to Allag. Then again, the Ascians were the ones who had a hand in building Allag. But back to the matter at hand, it looks like we are trying to maybe look for some answers about this place. And this is shown further as we get a shot of one of the new bosses, including the giant Cyclops Minotaur that looks like it's from Final Fantasy Tactics. And that makes sense since we do have a slight Evilisen theme here. Nice tie-in for the next dungeon, as well as moving through it with the trust system, and so it looks like some underwater creatures, as well as what defenses remain within those ruins. Meanwhile, we hear a voice speaking overhead, which sounds strangely similar to Emmet. I wouldn't quote me on that though. "In such vessels did the ancients preserve concepts, ideal forms born upon the act of creation." If it is Emmet, I'm not sure why we would be hearing from him now of all times. I mean, he had a glorious end, and I don't want to see anything that could ruin that for us. What is it with Square Enix killing off their characters only to bring them back? Anyway, from what it sounds like here in the new dungeon, the whole idea, like the whole concept of running through here is because we're trying to learn about these preserved concepts. Because if the ancients were able to find ways of preserving like just the ideas of souls, then perhaps this is the key to finding a way to bring the Scions back to the source. But next up, we have a glimpse of the Beast Tribe quest waiting for us. We do see us talking to the Qitari about something happening in the glowing crystal in Ratika, which is supposedly a great source of power for the woods. But almost immediately we move on to a ship in the middle of what looks like the Aurora Borealis, so it looks like this is going to be our first look at the deep sea fishing, at least judging from the fishermen standing on the sides showing me. I love this next scene where we have a gatherer about to blow away an enemy with a large cannon. Where has this thing been all of our lives? So this is definitely part of the diadem, and this here is just going to be a form of protection. So we'll be able to go about and continue to gather or fish in this place, and if monsters come near us, which we know that they will, we can just blow them away with a giant cannon. We're next shown another scene of us running through the new dungeon, so it definitely looks like it was part of the building that was either rebuilt by Emmet or somehow avoided the water after all these years. Now it looks a great deal like Alag once again, like I said before, and it seems to be like this place is used for storing memories. So it could be here not only are we looking for a way to get the Scions back to the source, but also maybe looking for answers, trying to learn more about Hydaelyn and Zodiark and just what happened, like, before the world was sundered. Anyway, we do see what looks like a giant jellyfish here, and I can't help but be reminded of Eureka when I see that. But because I do see Urianger and Reen there fighting with us, it's definitely part of the new dungeon. So I'm thinking that the Cyclops is the second boss, this jellyfish here is the first boss, which leaves us with the third boss in the next scene here. And I guess there's really no nice way of saying it, but he looks like a mutated, diseased, severely obese Sahagin here. And it seems like they have some kind of command over the water, as you can see like these giant watery claws rising up out of the depths as they try to drown us. But he's definitely part of the dungeon, and I am almost certain that he's going to be part of the last boss that we have to beat before we can move on. Now, next we are moving into more of a closer look at Eden. We see the one who is called the Oracle of Darkness, or rather her name is Gaia, and we see her walking across a stone floor. And that looks to be an Amnarang. I still don't see how she can walk in those heels though. I mean, those are like deep hoe heels, like you have to be extremely comfortable with pain to be able to walk in those. But we see her pause across the desert, and we see her command over the dark before it flashes forward to another scene where we're getting a look at one of the battles that we're going to be facing in the new Eden raids. At first, I thought that those were actually birds, but judging from like the whiteness of them, it appears like it's some kind of a sin eater waiting for us. So it doesn't look like we're going to be getting a clear look at its physical form just yet, but it looks like it's drawn to some kind of a crystal core, and we're just sort of attacking like these birds as they fly around us. We see what looks like a combo of light and dark attacks coming straight for us before switching to a new battlefield, which looks a great deal like the Thunder Plains from Final Fantasy X. And that's when he arrives in a bolt of lightning, and even accompanying him with his remix of a theme, Ramuh. Now, judging from just looking at him, he looks like a kind of combination of several monsters put into one. Like he's got Axion's body, Ramuh, and a combination of Ralgor's upper body. And the wings, I'm not entirely sure. For some reason, I'm just reminded of the winged Pegasus from Ratatosker's old sanctuary. Like the second boss, who did have command over lightning, but that's really the only thing I can really think of right now of where those wings could have come from. But this next part took me completely by surprise when they revealed that we're going to be getting 2 other primals in this patch. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting 2 at most, and then like 2 other battles with these other monsters. Like, I had no idea what was going to happen. I wasn't expecting it, but we are getting a look at both Garuda and Ifrit's newest designs. Now, Garuda looks to be a mixture of both Final Fantasy XIV Garuda and the one from 15. But her overall design, while still good, it still looks maybe a little bit too similar to the original Garuda that we all know and love to hate. I love the idea of adding all those extra wings and like those kind of freaky glowing eyes. But otherwise, like the color scheme alone is a little too close to home. As for Ifrit, however, he looks like a cross between Ifrit and Diabolos if you ask me. Now we're going to be doing a double battle with both of them, which is something that I'm still not sure how it's going to work out, but we really haven't seen like a double battle like this since, I don't know, like since Gilgamesh and Enkidu. I mean, we even see a trace of what the fight is going to be like, and it's going to be trying to fend them both off at the same time. So we're definitely going to be needing at least 2 tanks here trying to keep the balance. So we have 1 tank for each of these primals and just try to avoid getting stepped on. So hopefully by the end of this, we're going to be having 5 elements restored to the empty. Can't wait to see what it's going to look like after that. But during the next part of the trailer, we hear Y'shtola's voice speaking up. If, as the Exarch's research suggests, soul and mind share a fragile but profound bond, might it not be possible for an event to leave such a deep impact on the soul that it could be perceived eons later? So that line alone is kind of all but confirming that the Warrior of Darkness could just be one of the original Amiratians, like possibly the 14th member of the Convocation. It hasn't been said, it hasn't been confirmed, but yeah, everybody's talking about that, and it would explain a few things, but that's a whole other video. We do see her leading the way through the ruins of Ronka, leading them up to a mural that's on the wall. While it seems like she is explaining more about the whole idea of the star shower, we can see traces of the meteors falling in the sky in the mural. It seems to be the image of some sort of a goddess or maybe an empress, and it looks like we've stumbled upon someone's tomb, at least judging from the altar in front of us. Whoever they are, though, in the picture, it seems that they're having some kind of a bubble of protection around them as the meteors fall from the sky. So this looks a little bit too similar to the star shower that we got in 1.0. Now, for those of you who don't know exactly what the star shower was, in Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, the star shower was actually an image that came to the warrior before the echo awoke within them. So it really makes you wonder if any more people in the first are going to be seeing this whole image of the star shower, and like people with the echo are going to start randomly awakening. And I'll get more on that in a minute. But it looks like Y'shtola here has found some new information, and once again, perhaps a way to get the Scions home onto the source because of this. The next scene has somewhat of a surprise though, where we see an image of Grandson visiting us in our room. Now, it looks like he's entering the main scenario quest now, I guess. And if you don't know who this guy is, he was the partner that we had during the tanking role quest. He does see us as a friend, and we parted on good terms with him. And it seems like we're going to be getting a few scenes with him, but I wonder what he wants. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything about who this guy is or what his connection is with the whole idea of the Warriors of Lights, just in case you haven't played through it yet. But I'll just say that he's made a few changes since we first met him, and he's not a bad guy. He was just going through a lot at the time. Moving on, we're back in the tower, and we do see the Exarch here with Beklo, who seems to be studying the mirror behind him, or at least studying parts of the tower. And it is said that Beklo knows more about soul magic than anybody else in Norvrant. They explain to him that the Scions are actually from a different world, and they need help to try to get their souls back to where they belong. And so he's agreed to help them out and do what he can to help them. And he actually started making some progress. He needs the Scions' help before they can move any further than this. So that's going to be interesting to see what else he has to say about that. But it's in this scene where we get these clouds rolling in fast, and that is never a good sign. At first, I was actually afraid that this might be a sign that the light was coming back, but it's not like the bright light it was before. It was so much darker, and a story is coming our way. This is just what happened in 1.0, just before the echo sounded off. And we see the Warrior of Darkness looking up in worry. Does this mean that the star shower is about to happen? Meaning, is there another calamity on the horizon? Because apparently this is a scene that is seen shortly before a calamity is about to come. So that can't be a good thing. But one thing that did happen in 1.0 is that at one point when the star shower happened, no one else could see it. The Warrior of Light could see that, but no one else could. And we can see Alize behind us, so it is possible that the Warrior of Darkness is with the others, but is it possible that they're the only ones who can see the star shower? I mean, I suspect that Reed might be able to see it. As for anyone else, though, it's hard to say at this point. It does look like Alize was in the middle of turning around, but that's hard to tell here. After that, we see the image of the Oracle of Darkness, or Gaia, as her real name is. She's standing upon Eden's back. The darkness being pulled right out of the crystal was heading straight for her. It looks like trying to draw her in. And it looks like whatever this thing is, whatever it's trying to do, it's going to be the next boss battle that we're going to have to deal with, because you can see the white bird-like creatures flocking around it. And it does look like this crystal in some way controlling the Oracle, and it's trying to draw the darkness out of her before she fights it off. That's just what it looks like here. That's when we hear a voice in the background crying out over the noise, "The light, it's too much for her to bear." Who this person is, I have no clue. I mean, at first I thought it was Reen, but it doesn't sound like her. It's possible that it could be Y'shtola, but I also find that somewhat unlikely. I don't know. I don't know who this voice is or who this she character they're talking about is. I highly doubt that they're talking about Gaia, though. Only the main scenario quest line here has voice actors. So unless they suddenly decided to add voice acting to Eden, which I would not complain if that's what happens, I really don't know who this could possibly be. All we know for sure is that it's being spoken up with the ghostly images of these ancient Amaradians appearing around us, most likely near the end of the dungeon, where we learn some pretty interesting news regarding the past, like a projected memory perhaps, maybe finding out more about the summoning of Hydaelyn and Zodiac. Now this next part is very exciting. We have the image of what looks like Garlemald. Now it looks completely different from the cutscenes we've seen of it so far, and so far a lot of people think that it's either a part of Rabanastre or even Bozja. I am thinking that it's one of those nations that is under Imperial rule. At least going from the airships and the Garlemald banners hanging everywhere. Now, it is possible that we're just getting a flashback of Garlemald first taking over the city of Rabanastre, but I can say that it does look like we are returning to the Dalmascan provinces. So this is definitely Rabanastre architecture. Perhaps it's not exactly Rabanastre, but just definitely one of the places that are close by and just kind of maybe inspired by that artwork. Now it looks like we will be continuing on with the storyline that ended with the Return to Ivalice questline, and we're going to be facing off possibly with a very interesting foe. Then there is Y'shtola, who is examining the ruins once again as we hear her voice speak up, in which case none of this is mere coincidence, possibly continuing on with what she was saying before about the whole idea about the mind and the soul, and possibly being able to remember events that happened eons before. But in this next part, we see the remains of what can only be the Bozja Citadel. Things are not right here. We see the remains of the city, some floating dreadnoughts, floating rocks. It's kind of like gravity. It's completely out of whack here. But what really gets me is this tower in the distance. And remember what this tower looks like, because we will be seeing it again soon, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we do see like this wall behind it that looks like Baelsar's wall, but it's definitely Garlean technology and like Garlean architecture, and it looks like it had once been a shield that has been surrounding the city, but somehow it just cracked and shattered, and that's what's causing like all this messed up gravity around this area. All that I can see for sure is though that we seem to be moving through here with Makoto and Cid with us. So this looks like an instant's duty as we run through these ruins. Now Cid is fighting alongside us here with a sword actually, which is very interesting. But we are also fighting against Garleans, though I don't know why they would be here since there's really nothing left here. Next up though, we see the group back in Ratika, and we run across the Oddbird lookalike. Looks like he's confronting them after having left the ruins or that tomb from before the image of what looks like a painted mural on the wall shows up. Now, I'm not sure if this is Hydaelyn. A lot of people seem convinced that it's Hydaelyn. I personally do not think so. I mean, I think she looks a great deal more like Ultima the High Seraph from Final Fantasy XII, but there are people going around claiming that it's like the Hrothgar Queen, the worship goddess of the Qatari. I mean, it does look very similar to the murals that we see in the ruins of Ronka. But then again, they also look like something we could have seen in Ivalice. So if it does turn out that it's Ultima, then it would make sense that we would be seeing it there in the ruins of the story, for the weapons quest does turn out to be tied further into the story of Ivalice. So we could end up seeing much more about the idea of maybe the history of what happened, like somewhere in the ruins of the Citadel. Speaking of the Citadel, we do see more fighting going on there. We see Sid and several Hrothgar fighting alongside us. We see the image of Makoto here. And this next scene is actually really fascinating to me because it actually looks like we got our hands on a very special type of white auracite. At least that's just what I see here. We see some ancient form of the white auracite. I mean, it looks very old and maybe Ronkin style, or even something that we could have found in Amarant. Maybe someone's ether is actually stored inside it. Maybe this is a tool that we need to get the others back to the source, and it's the reward at the end of the dungeon. Either way, I do see any of those things possibly happen, or even all of them happening. But then we're back in the Garlean laboratory. We see Sid and Makoto running alongside us, and you know, this is the thing I hate about Garlean science facilities here in this game. I mean, they all look exactly the same. I mean, you can never tell where you are. But first of all, I should tell you all, they're not going to kill Sid. There is no way that they're going to kill off Sid. I do think that he is being injured here, but there's no way he's going to die. I mean, he's throwing up blood. But I think that this is due to, I don't know what this could be about. I do know that they did mention before that not only will we be getting the ruby weapon as a trial, we are going to be getting a very special type of secret trial as well. And they didn't go into too many details about it. They just mentioned that it's going to be a surprise, so nobody knows what it's going to be about. So maybe our mystery trial is going to be either facing up against Gabranth, or maybe, I don't know, maybe we come across like some kind of malformed, twisted version of his father. That would be cool. But I think it's more along the lines that we'll be running into Gabranth, but the other one idea would interest me a lot more. Now suddenly we hear Oddbird's voice speaking again. Or at least who we think might be Oddbirds. Only by the will of the star itself could such a miracle come to pass. Now, he's here in the Crystarium, grinning at us with a rather smug look as the Warrior of Darkness glares back, clearly not happy about this. Now, as far as we know, he hasn't told the others the truth about Oddbird, that he could see Oddbird's spirit and could talk to him all that time, and that it was because of him that they managed to defeat Hades, that he was able to get back up and fight him. But even if he did tell them, I don't think he's going to buy for even a moment that this is the same Oddbirds. Now, the will of the star that he mentioned before suggests that he's talking about Hydaelyn. But the funny thing is, in the Japanese version, it said that it was translated to be, I've been entrusted with awakening new warriors of light. I just don't know about this. I mean, I think it's been suggested that the Warrior of Light is the same warrior throughout history, just dying and being reborn over and over again, kind of like how the Oracle of Light was. But with Oddbird having rejoined with us, I don't think that it's possible anymore for the first. I mean, that might explain why he's back here, or at least, like, temporarily here. I mean, he's looking for a new Warrior of Light to take Oddbird's place. But this is kind of what shocked everybody here. We have the others here, I mean, we have the other Scions, including Rean, appearing here while we're here protecting Sid and Makoto. Now, this is clearly taking place in the source. I mean, we are clearly up with Makoto and Sid, most likely the Citadel anyway, and then suddenly we have some backup just appearing completely out of nowhere. I mean, I just love the idea of Rean being able to visit here. I mean, can you imagine that she would actually get a chance to meet up with Flamine? But that's another idea for another day. Next up, we have Gaia there, singing into darkness, perhaps being reclaimed by a void sense, certainly possible. And I am so happy about this next part where we finally have Xenos again, and we have him in a brand new outfit. He's wearing this Prince uniform from Dissidia, which was kind of spoiled for us, but I'm not too heartbroken about it because he looks amazing. He's walking through the revived memory of Amarant. It could be that he's hopping just from world to world now, getting tired of waiting for the Warrior of Light to come back. Or perhaps, more likely, he's doing research on Zodiark and kind of what happened and maybe where he can even find him. This next scene, however, kind of terrifies me because we have Garatia here, and he looks like he's in terrible pain. I mean, he's holding onto his arm. It looks like the crystal is definitely affecting him, possibly growing like across his body even more. I mean, it just seems to be very painful for him, and I'm terrified. Is he dying? No, I don't want him to die. But if you listen very carefully, you kind of hear the sounds of like the crackling crystal. So it does seem that the crystal is affecting him somehow. I mean, I don't think he planned on actually living this long, because he was long since expecting to have to give up his life to save the Warrior of Light. So I don't know what's going to be happening to him, but it looks like he's paying the price for this near immortality granted to him by the tower. Now, we're almost done, so please bear with me for a little bit longer. If you remember what I said before, if you remember this tower, we actually saw it earlier before in the Bozja Citadel. And I think that this confirms that this is the tower from Bozja, the transmitter tower. But how is this possible? How can a brand new Dalamud just appear right above it? I think more than anything that it could be either like a flashback or recording, possibly like a projection of what happened to the city. I mean, they're trying to make us think that Alphinaud is staring up at it, whispering in shock as he stares. I mean, at first I thought that was because he was in the Crystarium and he was seeing the star shower. However, the floor that he's standing on does resemble more of the ruins of Ronka. Now, the star shower was never properly explained in 1.0, but we did see this scene a couple times in A Realm Reborn. We did get a vision of it shortly after returning to the Wakened Sands, after defeating Garuda for the first time, but I find it interesting that it cuts almost immediately to Amarod again. Once again, we're going into the idea that the mind can remember things that happened countless years before, so perhaps they are getting a vision of the fall of Amarod, and they're slowly starting to put the pieces together of possibly who the Warrior of Light could truly be. So maybe this is an event that happens right before the calamity comes, and those who see it are reminded about Amarod, and this is what awakens the echo within them. But as Xenos walks around the fall of the city, we hear, for the first time since Heavensward, we hear Hydaelyn's voice. Hear, feel, think. Please tell me that we're going to be able to speak with her again. Please tell me. Because it has been so long. And especially after everything that's happened, like all of this information that we suddenly learn, I think that we are owed an explanation. So I do think it's time we hear from Hydaelyn's side of the story. I mean, we definitely heard from Zodiark's side, from Emmett Selk, but we still don't know about how Hydaelyn would see all of this and just what her role in this whole thing is. And I don't know. I mean, she definitely knows a lot more than she's been letting on, but for some reason, she doesn't seem too interested in telling us. So, to be honest, I do not think that we're going to be getting any real answers from her, but I really do hope that we get to hear from her again and like just kind of look at it from a brand new perspective, because we know what she really is now. I mean, we know how she came into being, but I really do want to see what she has to say about this whole thing. And then finally, it cuts to this last scene of us facing just kind of a smaller version of Dalamud. So it is possible that this is a vision of what could have happened, or perhaps some kind of a memory that we're seeing through the echo. I mean, we do see them in a battle pose, so it could be that we are in a kind of a projection, like how we fought against Neil in the second Coil of Bahamut. I don't know. I mean, Dalamud is definitely going to be playing a role in this quest. Whether it's going to be part of the main scenario quest, I do not know. But I do love the image of the crystal showing up here, because we have the image of, in the faucets, we see the Warrior of Darkness, we see the Oddbirds look-alike. Still don't know if it's the real Oddbird or not. I mean, I personally don't think so. But at the same time, I really hope that it's not Elidibus who's just controlling the body. And I don't think it is, though, because we have Elidibus here. But I do love the fact that this is 3 sides of one crystal, and it kind of shows that there just may be a very special connection between these 3. I mean, there's definitely a special connection with the Warrior of Light, because they once shared the same soul. And it could be that we were once comrades with Elidibus, but that's all going to be something that we're going to have to find out, I'm afraid. We just have so many questions, and I think it's kind of ironic that we're just kind of expecting answers from this patch. I personally would be very surprised if we managed to get even half of those answers that we're looking for from this patch. I think it's a little bit more likely that we won't be expecting any real answers until 5.3. And then finally, it ends off with these words. Emic Selk, how very unlike you to err so gravely. Now, it has been confirmed for us that the voice actor who does Elidibus is the same one who's speaking, so it's most likely Elidibus who's speaking about this, and he's kind of just like condemning Selk like in his head for possibly revealing all of this information about who they really are, about Amarot, and just kind of letting slip all this information that they probably didn't want the Scions to know about. So he's kind of like maybe just silently cursing his head like, how dare you tell them, like, and as well as the fact that he was beaten by them, like he was beaten fair and square and he's dead. So I could totally see Elidibus just kind of mentally scolding him like, I know you're not here and I can't really complain about it to you face to face, but like, I can't believe you lost. Like, it's not like you. I mean, they always just seem to be taking shots at each other, right? Like, the Ascians, they're like constantly putting each other down and they're like complaining with each other and like just kind of bickering. Then again, they had to deal with each other for eons, so they're probably just bored with each other. Anyway, everyone, I want to thank you so much for watching my video, just listening to me rant on and on about the specifics of a trailer. I mean, I get a little bit too obsessive with the lore of Final Fantasy XIV, but I'm okay with that. I mean, this is just my personal thoughts and opinions, just based on what we saw from the trailer here for the upcoming patch of 5.2. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to comment down below and tell me what you think. Do you think any of my ideas are right on point, or do you think I just completely missed the mark? Either way, I'd love to hear about it. Just let me know what you think, and I'll be seeing you all again real soon. Patch 5.2 is almost here, and I just cannot wait. So until then, everybody, take care, and be seeing you again soon.